Hello students, today we are going to continue with the novel Around the World in 80 Days. In the last lecture we had seen how the main character Mr. Fogg is trying to accomplish his task of traveling around the world in 80 days. We are going to continue with the same story today. We'll start from here. Passepartout. Passepartout, having received his orders, had nothing to do but obey them. Means here Fogg has given him orders to go and inform Oda that he won't be meeting her for breakfast and dinner, but at the evening time he'll just have a conversation with her. So here Passepartout has to go and inform this to Oda. He looked at his imperturbable master. Imperturbable means here not easily troubled or worried, means he was very calm person and could scarcely bring his mind to leave him, means he felt really bad for him and he didn't wanted to leave him. His heart was full and his conscience tortured by remorse. Remorse here means deep regret for having done something wrong, means he feels that whatever blunder has taken place here, it was only because of him, because he did not clear the misunderstanding between him and Mr. Fix. For he accused himself more bitterly than ever of being the cause of irretrievable disaster. Irretrievable, something that cannot be put right, means now everything has happened now and nothing can be put right. Yes, if he had warned Mr. Fogg and had betrayed Fix's projects to him, his master would certainly not have given the detective passage to Liverpool, and then means he felt if he would have cleared the misunderstanding, then Fogg would have not lost the challenge. Passepartout could hold in no longer. My master, Mr. Fogg, he cried, means he could not control his emotion for Fogg and he cried for him. Why you do not curse me? It was my fault that means he is telling, why don't you blame me? Why don't you scold me? Because of me only all this thing has happened. I blame no one, returned Phileas Fogg with perfect calmness. Go, means he is saying, I don't blame anyone, you go now. Passepartout left the room and went to find Auda, to whom he delivered his master's message. Means Passepartout left the room and he went to Oda to give him Fogg's message. Madam, he added, I can do nothing myself, nothing. I have no influence over my master, but you perhaps, means he is trying to tell her that I don't have any influence on my master, but you have. So please try to console him. He is very sad and depressed. What influence could I have? Replied Oda. Mr. Fogg is influenced by no one. She is saying, what influence can I have on him? He is not influenced by anyone. Has he ever understood that my gratitude to him is overflowing? Means, did he ever understand that how much thankful I am to him? Has he ever read my heart? Did he ever try to understand my feelings for him? My friend, he must not be left alone an instant. You say he is going to speak with me this evening. Means she also feels that he should not be left alone, and she is asking Passepartout that is he going to speak to her that evening. Yes, madam, probably to arrange for your protection and comfort in England. He is saying yes. We shall see, replied Oda, becoming suddenly pensive. Means she was also in a sad mood. Throughout this day, Sunday, the house in Savile Row was as if uninhabited, means no one was seen. And Phileas Fogg was for the first time since he had lived in that house, did not set out for his club when Westminster clock struck 11:30, means he did not leave his house for the first time. Why should he present himself at the Reform? His friends no longer expected him there, as Phileas Fogg had not appeared in the saloon on the evening before. He had lost his wager, means he did not be there on time, so he has lost the challenge. It was not even necessary that he should go to his bankers for the 20,000 pounds. Means he should not go to the bankers to ask for the money. For his antagonists, means the enemies, opponent people, already had his challenge in their hands, means they had won and they had only to fill it out and send it to the bearings to have the amount transferred to their credit, means to get the amount of that challenge, that 20,000 pounds in their account. Mr. Fogg therefore had no reason for going out and so he remained at home. Means he was very sad, he was very depressed, so he did not leave his house, he was at his home only. He shut himself up in his room and busied himself putting his affairs in order. Means he was just trying to do his work at home. Passepartout continuously ascended and descended the stairs. Means he was very restless, he was trying to keep watch on his master. So he was continuously ascending and descending on the stairs. The hours were long for him. He listened at his master's door, looked through the keyhole as if he had a perfect right to do so. Means he was keeping watch on him, as if he feared that something terrible might happen at any moment. Means he felt that now Fogg is very depressed, so he can do anything. Sometimes he thought of Fix, but no longer in anger. Fix, like all the world, had been mistaken in Phileas Fogg and had only done his duty in tracking and arresting him. While he, Passepartout, this thought haunted him and he never ceased cursing his miserable folly. Means he was no longer angry with Fix. He thought that whatever Fix had done, means mistaking Fogg as a bank robber, was his duty because he felt he has actually robbed the bank. That's why he tracked him and at last he arrested him. So it is not his fault here, it is fault of Passepartout only because he did not clear the misunderstanding. Finding himself too wretched to remain alone, he knocked at Auda's door, went into her room, seated himself without speaking in a corner and looked ruefully at the young woman. Ruefully here means here without any expression here, regretting because something bad has taken place because of the bad result. Auda was still pensive. She was also very sad. About 7:30 in the evening, Mr. Fogg sent to know if Auda would receive him. And in a few moments, he found himself alone with her. Means they both were there in a room. Phileas Fogg took the chair and sat down near the fireplace opposite to Auda. No emotion was visible on his face. Fogg returned was exactly the Fogg who had gone away. Means the person who was here after the journey was the person who was lost because he has lost the challenge. There was the same calm, the same impassibility. Means there were no expression on his face. He sat several minutes without speaking. Then bending his eyes on Auda, "Madam," said he, "will you pardon me for bringing you to England?" Means he is asking forgiveness to Auda. He is telling that I thought that when I bring you to England here, I will give you money and you will live a happy, free and happy life here because you were struggling there in India. But sorry, I have lost the challenge and I don't have money with me now. So will you forgive me? "I, Mr. Fogg," replied Auda, checking the pulse station of her heart. Means she is telling you are asking forgiveness to me? "Please let me finish," returned Mr. Fogg. "When I decided to bring you far away from the country which was so unsafe for you, I was rich and counted on putting a portion of my fortune at your disposal. Then your existence would have been free and happy, but now I am ruined." He's saying when I thought of bringing you to here, to my place here, I was rich and I felt that I will give you part of my money. The money which I was going to win by that challenge, winning the challenge, I was going to give you so that you live free and happy life, but it did not happen. So now I cannot help you. So please forgive me. "I know it, Mr. Fogg," replied Auda, "and I ask you in my turn, will you forgive me for having followed you? And who knows, for having perhaps delayed you and thus contributed to your ruin." Means she's saying here that you only forgive me because I followed you. I trusted you and I followed you. And because of me only you must have been late in accomplishing your task. So I have contributed to your ruin. "Madam, you could not remain in India and your safety could only be assured by bringing you to such a distance that your persecutors could not take you." Means he is telling that you were not safe in India there, and why I brought you here is to keep you safe from your persecutors, the people who are trying to cause harm to you. So, Mr. Fogg, resumed Oda, not content with rescuing me from a terrible death, you thought yourself bound to secure my comfort in a foreign land? Yes, madam, but circumstances being against me, still I beg to place the little I have left at your service. Means he is saying, yes, I bought you for the same reason only here, but I cannot help you now because I only have very little money with me. But whatever I have, I am ready to help you with that money. But what will become of you, Mr. Fogg? Means then what you will do if you give me that money, she's saying. As for me, madam, replied gentleman coldly, I have need of nothing. But how do you look upon the fate, sir, which awaits you, as I am in habit of doing? Means he's saying here, I am in habit of living a very simple life. I am not of a person who have many wants here. So I can manage, he's saying. At least, said Oda, want should not overtake a man like you, your friends. I have, means he's saying you have friends also. He's saying no, I have no friends, madam. Your relatives, I have no longer any relatives. I pity you, means she's saying you don't have friends, you don't have relatives. So I feel very sorry for you. For solitude is a sad thing. Being alone is a very sad thing. With no heart to which confide your griefs. Means to tell, express. Means if you have any friend or relative, you can share your feelings with them. They say, thought that misery itself shared by two sympathetic souls may be borne with patience. Means if the two people are sharing their feelings here, so you can console each other. They say so, madam. Mr. Fogg, said Oda, rising and seizing his hand. Do you wish at once a kinswoman and friend? Means she just took his hand and she is asking him that do you want a kinswoman, means female relative, or a friend? Will you have me for your wife? Means she is proposing him and asking him that will you marry me? Mr. Fogg at this rose in his turn. There was an unwanted light. Unwanted here means not usual or expected. It was not expected. He did not expect this question or this proposal from Oda. A slight trembling on his lips, Oda looked into his face. The sincerity, rectitude, morally correct behavior and attitude, means righteousness, firmness and sweetness of this soft glance of a noble woman, who could dare all to save him to whom she owed all. At first astonished, then penetrated him. Penetrated here means to be understood and realized. Means he understood her feelings for him. He shut his eyes for an instant as if to avoid her look. When he opened them again, I love you, he said simply. Yes, by all that is holiest, I love you and I am entirely yours. Means he also accepts her proposal. Ah, cried Oda, pressing his hand to her heart. Passepartout was summoned, means was called, and he appeared immediately. Mr. Fogg still held Oda's hand in his own. Passepartout understood and his big round face became radiant. He was also very happy as the tropical sun and at its zenith, means the point in the sky directly above the observer. Mr. Fogg asked him if it was not too late to notify the Reverend Samuel Winson. Reverend means father of the church, you can say here. Means he wanted Passepartout to call the father here of Marylebone parish that evening. Passepartout smiled his most genial smile and said, never too late. He said, no, you're not late. I can call him. It was 5 minutes past 8. Will it be for tomorrow, Monday? For tomorrow, Monday, said Mr. Fogg, turning to Oda. He means he is asking Oda, is it okay if we call him for tomorrow, Monday? Yes, for tomorrow, Monday. She also replied positively. Passepartout hurried off as fast as his legs could carry him. He just ran to call the priest. In which Phileas Fogg name is once more at preem on change. Means here in this chapter you will come to know that everywhere there is discussion about Fogg's arrival. In this time to relate what a change took place in English public opinion when it transpired transpired means to become known that the real bank robber, a certain James Strand, means the real bank robber's name is Sir James Strand, had been arrested on 17th day of December at Edinburgh. 3 days before, Phileas Fogg had been a criminal who was being desperately followed up by the police. Now he was an honorable gentleman mathematically pursuing his eccentric journey round the world. Means now he is being freed and now he is trying to accomplish his task. The papers resumed the discussion about the wager. Means everywhere there was discussion about the challenge. All those who had laid bets for or against him, means some had laid bets that he will win the challenge, he will come in 80 days, some were against it, that he won't win it. Revived their interest as if by magic. The Phileas Fogg bonds again became negotiable and many new wagers were made. Phileas Fogg name was once more at a premium on change. Means everywhere there was discussion regarding his challenge only. His 5 friends of the Reform Club passed these 3 days in a state of feverish suspense. Means they were very eager that when this suspense will be disclosed or when will Fogg arrive. Would Phileas Fogg, whom they had forgotten, reappear before their eyes? Where was he at this moment? The 17th of December, the day of James Strand's arrest, was the 76th since Phileas Fogg's departure, and no news of him had been received. Was he dead? Had he abandoned the effort, or was he continuing his journey along the route agreed upon? Means all this question came into their mind. And would he appear on Saturday, 21st December at the quarter before 9 in the evening on the threshold of the Reform Club saloon? All this question they were thinking. The anxiety in which for 3 days London society existed cannot be described. Means all were very anxious on the arrival of Fogg. Telegrams were sent to America and Asia for news of Phileas Fogg. Messengers were dispatched to the house in the Savile Row morning and evening. No news. The police were ignorant what had become of detective. Means everywhere there were news about Fogg only. The police were also ignorant about the detective Fix, who had so unfortunately followed up a false scent. Means he was following the false person. Bets increased nevertheless in number and value. Phileas Fogg, like a racehorse, was drawing near his last turning point. Means he was trying to reach his place. The bonds were quoted no longer at 100 below par, but at 20, at 10 and at 5, and paralytic old Lord Albemarle bet even in his favor. Means some people were betting in his favor. A great crowd was collected in Pall Mall and the neighboring streets on Saturday evening. It seemed like a multitude of brokers permanently established around the Reform Club. All were gathered there. Circulation was impeded and everywhere disputes, discussion and financial transactions were going on. The police had great difficulty in keeping back the crowd as the hour when Phileas Fogg was due approached. Means it was time there. The excitement rose to its highest pitch. The 5 antagonists, means the opponents of Fogg, had met in the great saloon of club. John Sullivan, Samuel Fallentin, the bankers, Andrew Stott, the engineer, the Gauthier Ralph, the director of the Bank of England, Thomas Flanagan, the brewer, and one and all waited anxiously. They were all there in the club. When the clock indicated 20 minutes past 8, Andrew Stott got up, said, "Gentlemen, in 20 minutes the time agreed upon between Mr. Fogg and ourselves will have expired." Means it will get over. "What time did the last train arrive from Liverpool?" asked Thomas Flanagan. "At 23 minutes past 7, replied Gauthier Ralph, "and the next does not arrive till 10 minutes after 12. Means he is saying here, if that time is been decided and if he does not arrive within till 10 minutes, then he loses. "Well, gentlemen," resumed Andrew Stott, "if Phileas Fogg had come in 7:23 train, he would have got there by this time. We can therefore regard the bet as one." Means they are thinking that if he would have reached the place by 7:23, he would have come by he would have come here by this time. As he has not come here, so we can think that we have won the bet. He has lost. Wait, don't let us be too hasty. We should not be too quick to judge they are trying to tell, replied Samuel Valentine. You know that Mr. Fogg is very eccentric, means he is very, you can say, to the point person. His punctuality is well known. He never arrives too soon or too late, and I should not be surprised if he appeared before us at the last minute. Means we should not be surprised here if he appears here before last minute here, because he is never too late or too early to reach any place. Why, said Andrew Stott nervously, if I should see him, I should not believe it was he. Means he is saying that if I see, I will not believe is he, because this is not possible for anyone to come here now. The fact is, resumed Thomas Flanagan, Mr. Fogg's project was absurdly foolish. Means he is saying the challenge was only very absurd. It is not possible for anyone. Whatever his punctuality, he could not prevent the delays which were certain to occur, and a delay of only 2 or 3 days would be fatal to his tour. Means he is saying here the delays, whatever the obstacles were there in his journey, because of that he could not reach this place in time. Observe too, added John Sullivan, then that we have received no intelligence from him. Means we did not receive any message from him, though there are telegraphic lines all along his route. Means he did not contact with them. He has lost, gentlemen, said Andrew Stott. He has 100 times lost. You know, besides that, the China, the only steamer he could have taken from New York to get here in time, arrived yesterday. Means the steamer by which he has to come here arrived yesterday only. So there is no possibility of him to come here. I have seen a list of the passenger, and the name of Phileas Fogg is not among them. Means he has seen the list of the passengers also, and Fogg's name is not there. Even if we admit that fortune has favored him, he can scarcely have reached America. I think he will be at least 20 days behindhand. Means he will come 20 days late, he is saying. And that Lord Albemarle will lose a cool 5,000. He will lose, because he has bet that he will come. It is clear, replied Gauthier Ralph, and we have nothing to do but to present Mr. Fogg's check at Barings tomorrow. Means it is clear that he has lost, and what we can do now, we will just present the check which we are going to give to Fogg. We will give it to give at Barings. At this moment, the hands of the clock pointed to 20 minutes to 9. 5 minutes more, said Andrew Stott. The 5 gentlemen looked at each other. Their anxiety was becoming intense, but not wishing to betray it, they readily assented to Mr. Valentine's proposal of a rubber. I wouldn't give up my 4,000 of the bet, said Andrew Stott, and he took his seat for 3,999. The clock indicated 18 minutes to 9. The players took up their cards but could not keep their eyes off the clock. Means they were just trying to play the cards, but their eyes were on the clock only. Certainly, however secure they felt, minutes had never seemed so long to them. Means they felt that the time was not passing on fast. 17 minutes to 9, said Thomas Flanagan as he cut the cards which Ralph handed to him. Then there was a moment of silence. The great saloon was perfectly quiet, but the murmurs of the crowd outside were heard, with now and then a shrill cry. The pendulum beat the seconds, which each player eagerly counted as he listened with mathematical regularity. Means they were in the room, there was silence, but out the crowd was making noise. They all were having discussion, bet was going on. 16 minutes to 9, said John Servian in a voice which betrayed his emotion. 1 minute more and the wager would be won. Means they are saying within 1 minute now we will win the challenge. Andrew Stott and his partners suspended their game. They left their cards and counted the seconds. At the 40th second, nothing. At the 50th, still nothing. Means no one was to be seen. At the 55th, a loud cry was heard in the street, followed by applause, hurrahs, and some fierce growls. Means fierce growls. Means here you can hear noise in the crowd as if someone has arrived. They are very happy to see that person. The players rose from their seats. Here I am, gentleman. And the 57th second, the door of the saloon opened, and the pendulum had not beat the 60th second when Phileas Fogg appeared, followed by an excited crowd who had forced their way through the club doors. And his calm voice said, "Here I am, gentleman." Means he comes there in the Reform Club and he meets those people. Now this chapter, in which it is shown that Phileas Fogg gained nothing by his tour around the world unless it were happiness. Yes, Phileas Fogg in person. Means here in this chapter we come to know, though he has won the challenge here, he got those money, 20,000 points from, but that on his way, on his journey, he has spent 19,000 pounds. So only few thousand pounds were left with him of the money which he has got from the challenge. But he's saying money doesn't matter him the most. The thing which he has won from this journey is the love of order and also faithfulness and sincerity of Passepartout. We'll come to know in this chapter. The reader will remember that at 5 minutes past 8 in the evening, about 5:20 hours after the arrival, the travellers in London, Passepartout had been sent by his master to engage the services of the Reverend Samuel Winson in a certain marriage ceremony which was to take place the next day. Means he had sent Passepartout to call the priest of the church for the marriage which was going to take place the next day. With his hair in disorder and without his hat, he ran. Means he just ran to call the priest. Passepartout went on his errand enchanted. Means very happily he went. He soon reached the clergyman's house, but he found him not at home. Passepartout waited a good 20 minutes, and when he left the reverend gentleman, it was 35 minutes past 8. But in what a state he was, with his hair in disorder and without his hat. He ran along the street as never man was seen to run before, overturning the passengers by, rushing over the sidewalk like a water spout. Means he just went to call, but he was not in the house. But suddenly he realized something, and he was so happy that he just ran very fast to go and speak to Fogg. In 3 minutes he was in Savile Row again and staggered back into Mr. Fogg's room. He just hurriedly rushed into Fogg's room. He could not speak. "What is the matter?" asked Mr. Fogg. Fogg is asking him. "My master," gasped Passepartout. He is not able to speak. "Marriage impossible." "Impossible?" "Impossible for tomorrow." "Why so?" "Because tomorrow is Sunday." "Monday," he replied. Fogg is telling it is Monday. "No, today is Saturday. You have mistaken. Today is Saturday." He's saying Saturday. "It is impossible." "Yes, yes, yes, yes," cried Passepartout. "You have made a mistake of 1 day. We have arrived 24 hours ahead of time, but there are only 10 minutes left," he's saying. Passepartout has seized his master by the collar. He just catched hold of Fogg's collar and was dragging him along with irresistible force, just pushing him or taking him along with him. Phileas Fogg, thus kidnapped, without having time to think, left his house, jumped into a cab and promised £100 to the cabman. He told the cabman, "You just drive us to a reform club, I'll give you £1,000. Having run over 2 dogs and overturned 5 carriages, reached the reform club. The clock indicated 9:15 when he appeared in the great saloon. He was there. Phileas Fogg had accomplished the journey round the world in 80 days. Phileas Fogg had won his wager of £20,000. How was it that a man so exact and fastidious, a person who is so exact about the time and days, who can make such a mistake here, could have made this error? How could he think that he arrived in London on Saturday, that 21st day of December, when it was really Friday, the 20th or 79th of own day only from his departure? Means how could he make mistake of 1 day? The cause of the error is very simple. They are trying to explain. Phileas Fogg had, without suspecting it, gained 1 day on his journey, and this merely because he had travelled constantly eastward. He would, on the contrary, have lost a day had he gone to opposite direction, that is westward. In journeying eastward, he had gone towards the sun, and the days therefore diminished, means one day becomes less, as many times 4 minutes as he crossed degrees in this direction. There are 360 degrees on the circumference of the earth, and this 360 degrees multiplied by 4 minutes give precisely 24 hours to a person. That is, one day unconsciously he had gained. In other words, Phileas Fogg, going eastward, saw the sun pass the meridian 80 times. His friend in London only saw pass the meridian 79 times. This is why they awaited him at the Reform Club on Saturday and not on Sunday, as Mr. Fogg thought. And Passepartout's famous family watch, which had always kept London time, would have betrayed this fact if it had marked the days as well as the hours and 10 minutes. Phileas Fogg then had won £20,000, but as he had spent nearly 19,000 on the way, the pecuniary gain was small. Means he had won only 1,000 now. With remaining with him, 19 he had already spent, so he will need that money. His object was, however, to be victorious, not to win money. Means this motive, his aim of this challenge was to win the challenge, not money. He divided the £1,000 at that remained between Passepartout and the unfortunate Fix, against whom he cherished no grudge. Means he felt nothing bad about him. He had no grudges against him. So he, you can say, divided the money between both of them. He deducted, however, Passepartout's share, the cost of the gas which he had burned in his room for 1972 hours for the sake of regularity. Means he deducted the money for the gas being kept burned in the house. That evening, Mr. Fogg, as tranquil and phlegmatic means what? Not easily made angry or upset, as ever, said to Oda, "Is our marriage still agreeable to you?" Means she is asking, I don't have money, but are you still ready to marry me? Mr. Fogg replied, she, "It is for me to ask that question. You were ruined, but now you are rich again." Means she is saying, you were ruined, but now you are rich again because you have won the challenge here. "Pardon me, madam, my fortune belongs to you. If you had not suggested our marriage, my servant would not have gone to Reverend Samuel Wilson. I should not have been apprised of my error." Means he is saying that if you would not have proposed me, I would not have asked Passepartout to go to Samuel. And then there he would not have realized that we were one day ahead. "Dear Mr. Fogg," said young woman. "Dear Oda," replied Phileas Fogg. It need not be said that marriage took place 48 hours after, and that Passepartout, glowing and dazzling, gave the bride away. Had he not saved her, and was he not entitled to this honor? Means he was very suitable person to marry to her. The next day, as soon as it was light, Passepartout rapped vigorously at his master's door. Mr. Fogg opened it and asked, "What's the matter, Passepartout?" "What is it, sir? Why, I have just this instant found out." Means what did he find? What? That we might have made the tour of the world in only 78 days? "No doubt," returned Mr. Fogg, "by not crossing India. But if I had not crossed India, I should not have saved Oda, and she would not have been my wife." He say that if we would not have crossed India, I would not have met Oda, and she would not be my wife. Mr. Fogg quietly shut the door. Phileas Fogg had won the wager and has made his journey around the world in 80 days. To do this, he had employed every means of conveyance: steamers, railway carriages, yachts, trading vessels, sledges, elephants. The eccentric gentleman had throughout displayed all his marvelous quality of coolness and exactitude. How particular person he was! But what then? What had he really gained by all this trouble? What had he brought back for this long and weary journey? What did he bring? What did he get from this journey? Nothing, say you, perhaps. So, nothing but a charming woman who, strange as it may appear, made him happiest of men. Truly, would you not for less than that make the tour around the world? Means he had gained nothing like money or anything, but he had gained the true love of order and which he was really happy for. I hope you have understood the lesson, students. Thank you.